Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Chris coming at you with another episode to the Beautiful Struggle podcast, where we talk about personal development and business all in the same podcast. And this is episode number 95. And if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, we drop a new episode every single Monday of the week. So start your week off with some positivity and some good information, because today we have another phenomenal guest on the podcast. And if you guys heard last week's episode, you guys know that I did an episode talking about what I recently learned at a conference I went to. It's a business conference, entrepreneurship conference that I recently went to. Just a quick overview. It was a great place to interact with people, great place to network. Met a lot of dope people there. Also at the conference, they had a lot of great speakers on stage. And in one of the panels, for about 30 minutes or so, they had a panel of young entrepreneur women on stage, and all bosses in their own due respect. But one stood out to me in particular, kind of gravitated to her story, and we actually have her on the guest for today's podcast episode. So just a little bit about my guest, and we'll introduce her in a quick second. She is a serial entrepreneur, a business coach. She is the founder at Financial Literacy for People of Color, a nonprofit organization. And she is the youngest and one of the first ever franchise owner of Mayweather Boxing and Fitness Gym. Yes, that's Floyd
Ooh,
Mayweather. All right, so welcome the young boss, Taylur Avery. How you doing?
thank you. Thank you. I'm doing good. I
Abs-
appreciate that intro. That was good.
Absolutely. It's all good. I had to do it right. So, yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for jumping on the podcast. Thank you for giving us a piece of your time. We truly appreciate it.
of course. I'm
Mhm.
glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, on stage, you mentioned a bunch of different things, and I know that you're young, but you've been through a lot. You've seen a lot. In addition to everything I just listed off, I think you're currently in law enforcement, or you were in law enforcement. Which one?
Yeah, I'm still in law enforcement. Yeah.
Still in law enforcement. There's a lot of things that you're involved with. So I know the audience and myself were super curious to know the full journey and the full story of how you got to where you're at as a young franchise owner of the Mayweather Boxing Gym. So I would love for you to start with your background, your story, and you growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so many layers to this. So I don't even I,
Absolutely.
I don't know where to start, but I will start.
Break it down. Break it down. Yeah.
So I'm Taylor. I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi. I actually was born in LA, but I moved
Mm,
to Mississippi when I was 3. My mom moved me to Mississippi when her and my dad split. And so I pretty much was raised there, and I was back and forth to LA during the summers growing up until about like 13. And then like my grandmother got really sick. So, that stuff kind of stopped. And yeah, so I was a very active person growing up. Like my mom and my oldest sister, like they don't know where I get it from. I couldn't tell you, but I like to do everything. Like my sister would ride the bus to go home, and I always stayed after school because I had something to do. I've
mm,
been like this my entire life. I'm busy. I'm like, Mom, can you pick me up after school? I gotta stay after school for not here club or cheerleading or what yearbook staff.
mm,
Like I was in everything. So I always just been very active, very ambitious, and just I like to be in the mix and have my hands in a
mm,
bunch of different things. So that's something that's just I don't know where it came from. It's just always been, a part of me since I was little. And yeah, so I was very active student athlete all through high school. And I just decided when I was in high school, like I was ready to go. I was tired of
mm,
high school. And this was like one of my first experiences learning how, the epitome of closed mouth don't get fed. You don't
mm,
know until you ask, and just not being afraid to ask questions. So I remember going to my counselor, and I was just like, Can I graduate early?
Mm.
Because I took honors classes in middle school. I took AP courses. So I was getting like half a credit more than my peers. So I knew I had like senior year, all you do is take electives because I
Yeah.
already had enough credits to graduate. So I was like, I don't feel like coming to school to take a bunch of electives. So I might as well just get out of here. So I asked, and she was like, actually, yeah, you could just take English over the summer and then you'll be able to graduate next year. And that's what I did.
Really?
So, yeah, so I graduated high school at 16 and I went to college. So I graduated
Mm.
August. My birthday is late. So I started college in August right before my 17th birthday. So I was 16 years old, starting college. Went to a 4-year university, Ole Miss, Hotty Toddy
Mm.
in Mississippi. And yeah, so I did that, graduated um, after 4 years, and then I went to the Highway Patrol. So I
Mm.
was a Mississippi State Trooper. I was the only female to graduate out of my State Trooper Academy. We graduated 48 out of 136 that started.
Mm.
The hardest
Mm.
thing I ever did in my entire life. But that's probably what mentally just
Right.
helps me through the rest of my life because man, that stuff, especially being a woman and
Mm-hmm.
being black and in Mississippi and realizing that they ain't want to really see me make it.
Mm-hmm. I heard
um
that.
and so I really had to push through that mentally and physically. And yeah, then I did highway patrol for 2 years, and then I actually was coached by some of my coworkers. They was like, Taylor, like, you need to get out of here. You're gonna look up, you're
Mm.
gonna have 10 years on the job and you're gonna
Wow.
be stuck. And then they saw more in me than I was really giving myself credit for. Cause I was like, nah, like they was like, you need to go federal. And I was like, nah, I can't go federal. I'm too young. Like I need 5 years experience. And they was like, no, like you need to start looking before you be stuck here. Like they saw something in me, like I said, that I didn't
Mm.
really pay attention or see in myself. So I took their advice and I started looking, and I ended up getting hired with with the Secret Service. So I
Mm.
became a Secret Service agent, and I did Secret Service for 5 years. And yeah, I did 3 years in LA, and then I served on the vice president's detail. So I was under
Wow.
Pence. Yeah, so I worked security. I worked protection for Mike Pence, and I worked protection for Kamala when she just came in office this year. So
Really?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So I,
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. I want to maybe back it up a little bit. I had a question about when you were young and you were going back and forth from Mississippi to LA.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Talk about maybe some of the differences that you experienced, traveling back and forth from the South to the West Coast. 'Cause I know those are two completely different worlds. And I know you
Right.
going to LA and then coming back home, I'm sure you brought some new experiences or something new to your
Man.
environment. Yeah. Talk about it.
Yeah. So do you remember this? You just made me think of something. So, I mean, I was young and that was normal for me. So,
Yeah.
I realized that, there's people that be stuck and never left the city limits,
Y-
they of where they live.
No,
And
what I was
so,
going to say is not to interrupt you. The reason why I brought it up is because I was born in LA. I was born in Torrance. And
okay,
then
that's
our
what my gym is.
family, yeah, yeah, we'll get into that as well. Our family moved up to Portland, Oregon, and eventually moved to Sacramento. But I say it to say, I mean, throughout that whole time, I was going back and forth to LA all the time, visiting family
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. And it was normal as well. But I do remember as a kid, there was like some things that I would take back, that was just, I got to experience that other people didn't, that like what
Yeah.
looks like what you're about to say is like people just stayed in their environment for so long. They don't really experience very much.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so do have a funny story about that. Like I realized by coming back and forth that how behind the times we were in Mississippi.
Mm.
Like I would be here. I
Wow.
remember when that song I think might have been like chicken noodle soup.
Okay.
Chicken noodle
Yeah.
soup.
Yeah.
I remember that song came out and we was in California for the summer And like it just felt like 2 months had passed before I even heard the
Mm,
song on the radio in Mississippi before they even would play it.
wow.
And then like even style. So I remember, you remember when girls would wear skirts with the leggings under it?
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So that was a whole fashion thing in LA. And so I
mm.
remember, and we were in uniforms in Mississippi at the time. So I remember like that was the style here. And I was like, oh, that's so dope. Me and my sister like, we're gonna be the first people to wear it in Mississippi. Like we thought it was gonna be so cool. Get back, I bought my little white leggings with my navy blue skirt and a white collar shirt because the uniform.
Right,
And I remember going to school and everybody was like, ugh, like what you got on, girl? You look
right,
crazy.
right.
Like just talking about me. I cried. I took them leggings off. Like, this is bogus. Like, y'all don't even know this from LA, you know.
Right.
And they
That's
just didn't
funny.
even know. So like even like culturally and just and then here we go. Then 2-3 months later, now everybody want to wear leggings with their
Mm-hmm.
skirt. And I'm like, I started
That
that.
part.
But yeah.
Nah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And so the other thing I was curious about is, did you always have in mind that you want to go into law enforcement, or was it like a thing that was in the family that everybody kind of went to law enforcement, or what made you even want to go down that path? Especially going to
Yeah.
college early, it seemed like you knew what you wanted at a young age. So what made you go
Yeah.
down that path?
Man, it is my uncle. So I went like growing up, like even though my dad is in LA, I don't really have a relationship with him like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really have any positive male figures in my life growing up,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty common, I guess. But so my uncle was like the only positive male figure that I had, and he was, in law enforcement. He was military, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember like, when you little and we do like career day, and they say, "What do you
Mm-hmm.
want to be when you grow up?" I was little, I would say I want to be the police. So I'm like, I'll
Mm.
be the police. I'm gonna be, like my uncle. And so that's what I did. I kind of just followed in his footsteps. I did ROTC in college for 3 years. So my goal was to
Mm.
just go to the military and be military police. But I ended up not. That just wasn't the path God wanted me to go on in life, which I see that now, and I'm grateful for the path that I have taken. But that's what I wanted to do was the military, and because I didn't go that route, I decided to take the next best thing, which was local law enforcement. So
Mm.
yeah, it is kind of something that I always wanted to do, or at least as a kid. And then once it became more relevant in college, it's something I always stuck to.
Absolutely. And so then, after local law enforcement, then you transition to the Secret Service, correct?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that experience a little bit? Because a lot of people, when they hear Secret Service, it's just so discreet. Like, could you tell us anything? But like,
Right.
what are some of the things that you experienced? What are some of the things that you learned? Maybe who are some of the people that you interacted, and what did you learn from these people?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a pretty cool process just transitioning. A lot of people think like, what kind of background you have to get, they
Right.
actually are really good. They want people from a lot of different backgrounds because aside from, needing to protect the highest two offices
Mm.
in our country, you have to be smart and you got to know
Right.
how to maneuver certain things. So you don't really necessarily have to have some crazy buku background
Right.
to
Right.
do
Right.
it. But yeah, it was a good experience, and I got to travel the world like and
Mm.
see things live in person that people at home
That's
just
amazing.
watch on the news. I'm like, I'm actually here. Like I was in London
Here.
one
Yeah.
year watching this big parade, and they
Wow.
were marching with this band, and it was streaming live on TV, and I literally was standing behind those doors like, this is crazy.
Mm.
So yeah, I've gotten to really travel the world with the service and like see and do some really cool stuff.
Absolutely. So you stayed there for a little bit. Now I'm
Mhm.
curious, when did the entrepreneurial bug start tickling at you? Like, when did you know, like, because I'm pretty sure you probably had a good salary, maybe a good job in the eyes of your
Yeah.
family. What made you want to jump into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I remember, and he probably doesn't know this. I'm gonna send this podcast to him so he can hear. But my friend Miko, His name is Miko Shoulders, and he was
Mm.
like the first like taste I got of entrepreneurship. And it was back in the day where they used to sell them knives and go to door selling those knives or whatever. And I just
Did I
remember
get you?
him.
They try to get you right after high school.
Yes, yes. Which is it's a good now that I'm in it, I realize how good of a skill it
Yeah,
it would have been to take advantage of. But
facts.
because I seen that and I was so turned off and like I was a people person, but sales wasn't really my thing. I was just like, I do not want to be an entrepreneur. Like, why would I want to do
Mm.
that? Why would I want to knock on people's doors and like try to harass them to buy something? That was my first take on entrepreneurship, and that was my
Mm.
thought. So
Interesting.
it was never something that was attractive to me. So then when I got older, I got my master's actually in business administration with an emphasis in leadership, and that's where I kind of really started learning the real parts or the number parts of running a business, and like the good, the bad, the ugly that
Mm-hmm.
comes with running a business. And so I got a little taste of it there. And this was back when I was on the highway patrol. This is where it actually started. So there's this place called Snowbiz. It's a
Mm.
shave ice place, and I call it my crack because I love it so much. I spend all my money on Snowbiz in the summertime. I go like every day to get this shave ice because it's so good. And so I remember, because the owner would see me come through all the time, my patrol car, like get Snowbiz. And I just started to talk to them, like, how did you get this? Like, I'm seeing trailers, like I want to do one. Like, and I just started inquiring. And so she gave me some information. I called Snowbiz because they franchise. And because I thought it would be something great, because I really love the brand, I really love the product. And I was like, I might as well just open my own. Then I can have them all for free. So,
Mm.
so that's kind of where I started. And I went down Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It was about 30 minutes from where I was patrolling. I would drive down there and I would just drive around and look for a spot, like look for a
Mm.
location. And these little places are like small. You could put them in the parking lot of a gas station. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
typically where you would see a Snowbiz. Found a perfect location. Already had plumbing. I talked to the owner of the gas station. He said
Mm.
$500 a month, and he would rent it out to me. And
Mm.
so I got working. I talked to the franchise. I drew up, didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I drew up my plans. I sketched my own 3D thing, and I made an
Mm.
appointment with the city. And I went down there in my uniform, flex a little bit.
Right,
And
right.
I presented the business to them, and they gave me some things to work on. And I had started prepping to get everything approved. And then the Secret Service called.
Mm.
So, but and I chickened out because I was like, I don't want to start a brand new business. I'm
Mm-hmm.
moving and I'm going to be in LA, starting a new job. And it just I just stopped
Mm.
because it just wasn't ideal for me. And I was like, well, it's either start this business or take the job. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm taking the job.
Right, right.
So that's kind of where it started. And then the whole franchise thing died down for me after that. And I it wasn't until about 3 years after I had got back to LA or moved to LA and kind of settled in that I really started thinking about getting back into entrepreneurship, starting a business. At this point, I had already graduated with my master's, and I was thinking I didn't want my business. I wanted to start a business. I didn't want it to fail because a lot of businesses
Mm-hmm.
fail in their first year. And so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do? Start a successful business and learn the lay of the land without,
Mm-hmm.
um, failing. And so I thought franchising. I can franchise. Like the business model will pretty much be laid out for me. All I gotta do is execute what they tell me to execute, and then I can
Mm-hmm.
learn the business. And at that point, I could take what I learned and do anything. And so that's pretty much what I did. It was either food or fitness. Either I
Mm.
was gonna do franchise a food business or fitness because I like both.
Mm-hmm. Right, right,
So
right.
um, it boiled down to two companies. It was Chick-fil-A
Mm.
and F45, which is F45 is like a boutique style. Have you ever heard of
Okay.
it? Yeah,
I
it's like
haven't.
it's like a boutique style CrossFit kind of
Okay.
gym. Like it's
Okay.
circuit training, pretty much. It's a circuit training gym. So Chick-fil-A was a no-go. So Chick-fil-A is attracted to a lot of people because they have a cheap buy-in. They have one of the
Mm.
least expensive franchise fees ever, which is like $10,000, I think.
10,000. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the downfall to that is that they don't really consider you an owner. They consider you an
Mm.
operator. And you cannot do anything else outside of work for them. So
Mm.
you
That's
can't have
interesting.
another job. You can't have another business. Like
Mm.
you, you
They
belong
want
to
you at
them
Chick.
pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that just wasn't attractive to me. So I ended up falling out of process with them. And then I was talking to F45. F45 is based out of New Zealand, I think.
Mm.
So I just wasn't meshing with them the way that I would have liked to if I'm gonna make a hefty investment like that. It
Right.
just
Right.
wasn't clicking. So I was like kind of pulling back from them. And then I was just scrolling on Instagram one day. At the time, I had a one-on-one boxing trainer, and I was just
Mm.
working with him just because boxing was a big part of what I did as a state trooper, just keeping up my skills.
Mm.
Because a lot of people don't realize that we work alone. When you're a state trooper, you're on the streets by yourself. You're on
Yeah.
these dark highways in Mississippi. There's no light. It's dark. All kind of stuff can happen. So that was just something that I wanted to keep up in case I ever had to, fight because it
Right.
happens.
That's a fact.
Um, so I was working one on one with this guy, and it was costing me a lot of money.
Mm.
And so I saw Mayweather, the gym on Instagram. They had just did their grand opening, and I was like, "Oh, I could go to this gym. Like it's probably cheaper. I could save some money. Mayweather, cool. Let's do that."
Mm-hmm.
I clicked on the link, and then it was like franchising opportunities. I was like, "Oh yeah, sign me up for that instead." So I signed up to be as a lead for franchising, and they called me about a week or two later, and I got invited to a discovery day where they pretty much went over the business model, let me ask as many questions as I wanted. And I really clicked with their team and I felt
Mm.
comfortable. It's a brand new development and it's behind the Mayweather name. So I just,
Mm-hmm.
with it being brand new, they didn't have any numbers to show me. But I also looked at it as an opportunity, like I'm gonna be their baby. Like I
Yeah.
have to succeed if they want the company to grow. And it's Mayweather, they're not gonna let the thing
Mm-hmm.
fail. So I was like, let me go and get in now.
Love
And
it.
so I would have as much support as I needed to go ahead and get open and be successful. And so that's what I did.
No, what's crazy about your story is I don't know if you realized it, but a lot of things in your life came back around. So
Mm-hmm.
you were born in LA, you ended up moving back to LA. You know, the
Yes.
fitness and being active, you have a gym that you're franchising. And
Mm-hmm.
then the franchise in itself, I mean, you had that idea initially and then it just came back around to you. So that's pretty crazy
Yes.
that how,
Yes.
things end up coming back around to us. We just have to
So
pay
crazy.
attention to those things, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And I
Yeah.
always told myself, like, if this doesn't work out, it'll be here. Like I like with
Mm-hmm.
the Highway Patrol. I didn't really want to leave. I had only been there 2 years, and that was the hardest training I had ever been through in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I just put myself through all this hell to just
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
and leave. I didn't want to leave, but I told myself like, if this doesn't work out, I can always come back, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
They would always take me back.
Yeah.
I was a good trooper. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to come back, they probably would take me back. So I was like, I'm gonna go live my life, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't work out, I can come back.
No, that part, I love that because even when especially when you're young, you don't have a whole lot of responsibility as far as like a
Yeah.
family and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
This is a time to take a risk. You know, you can always go
Exactly.
back and find a job. In your case, you were solidified in a career, so you can go back to. Why not go ahead and try, being a business owner?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Absolutely. Now, I'm curious if you can walk us through a day in a life as a young franchise owner. Like, what does that look like? You know, especially at a boxing gym. What does that look like for you? And if you can let us know where the gym's at and when it opens up, or if it's open, let us know that as well.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing we didn't talk about. So I actually lived in DC for the last year. I just moved back to LA in May.
Mm,
So my gym opened in November of 2019,
got you.
3 months before COVID happened, or four
Mm-hmm.
months, right? 3.5 months.
Yep.
So I opened November 19th, then December, January, February, and then middle of March. Now I'm closed for 4 months. So just
Mm,
imagine opening up a brand new business, $500,000 investment, and now you gotta close.
yeah.
From what we thought would be 2 weeks, which turned into what, 4 months, and then the pandemic lasted. It's still going on.
Yeah. Still going
So
on.
part of my job as a Secret Service was is you have to move to DC after 3 to 5 years in the field. So my
Mm,
position in LA was considered the field, which I pretty much temped to other details. So I would tempt to the president, tempt to the vice president, tempt to whoever we were protecting. I would tempt out to those people while I was working investigations. Then you go permanent to a detail. So I would be only on the vice president's detail, and I didn't work, I didn't tempt the president or anybody else.
mm-hmm.
So it's mandatory. I knew that when they hired me. So I was kind of in a position, I thought about quitting. I thought about quitting the service so I didn't have to move away from LA. But I also was like, I was torn between like I don't want to not go and not
Mm-hmm.
experience that detailed life, because then I don't want to live my life with regret. Just like I
Right.
told you before, I can always come back. I
Mm-hmm.
can always get back to LA, but I do want to take this opportunity to go and not regret not going and
Mm-hmm.
live my whole life wondering, ooh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I don't want to live my whole life wondering if I would have liked it, or if I had gone, would I have stayed in
Right. Right.
DC. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go. And so I went, and now I'm back in LA. Like you said, everything just came full circle, and now I'm able to be back here. And I have, it's so crazy. I have another full circle moment that if we have time, I'll tell
Mm.
you about. But
Yeah. Talk about it.
um, so part of me, the reason why I was able to do that as well is because I had a good team here. So
Mm.
my girlfriend is my business partner, and so she runs a gym full time. And we had a conversation. Even she knew I was supposed to be leaving and stuff, so we that was always the topic of conversation. But she's also a good business partner, and we
Mm-hmm.
had a great team there as well that are coachable and easy to manage. And
So
so
they held it
that
down.
plays a huge role in me being able to um, do things for the business that's going to help the business grow and help the business make money, which I don't
Mm.
physically have to be here to do. So
Mm.
but it took that full year, or the few months that I did have um to scale the business up. It took me being very active and very involved so that I could pull back. And I literally lived across the country for a year and ran a successful business, even though it was
Mm.
very hard. Um, so
That's
that's
crazy.
that's a
That's
piece
crazy.
of it. And then aside from that, now that I'm back in town, I probably go there like twice a week.
Mm.
I'm in meetings, so if I'm at work. Today I had 2 meetings back to back for the business, for the gym. Got my headphones in, typing on the computer, listening to this meeting, interacting with them. It's running reports. So
Mm.
yesterday I could just pop on my phone real quick, run the report, see how much revenue we did for the month. Are we on goal? Are we on pace? And then I talk to my partner and I'm like, hey, oh, this happened. Oh, we're behind here. So a lot of what I do as far as managing a gym is just being active, even though I'm not physically there, letting them know that I'm watching, I'm paying
Mm-hmm.
attention, I know what's going on. I have a full staff meeting in person this coming Sunday. So we meet once a month. They see my face. But when I do pop in, it's like, oh, the boss lady here, get it
Yeah. Yeah.
together. So
I heard
um
that.
yeah. So
Mm.
it's definitely a constant. And like I told you before we even started rolling, I have a to-do list on my notes.
Mm-hmm.
So aside from me living by my calendar, I have a to-do list with small little things. Like I literally
Right.
have a note on there to call my cousin because I need to call her.
I do
If I don't
I
write it
do the
down,
same
I'm gonna
thing.
forget. It'll be
I
next week
do
before
the
I remember
same. I do the same thing. I'm telling. I write down. I tell my wife I write
everything.
down everything. I got to cook dinner. I put that down.
Everything.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? So you brought up
exactly.
something very interesting. You said your partner is your actual business partner, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you talk about that a little bit where the person you're probably living with, your partner, is actually in business with you? Now, how do you guys, probably being young, how do you guys put business aside and put the relationship aside? Like, how does that work for you guys being in business with your partner?
Yeah. So we actually were just friends before this. So
Mm-hmm.
I know this is like about business and entrepreneur, but like
Yeah, yeah.
uh I wasn't studying her when we were
Yeah.
friends. Like we were not even looking at each other like that. It
Yeah.
was just like that was my girl. I
Mm-hmm.
told her all my business. Like we just had girl talk and like, it
Yeah.
was just cool. And so from there we kind of just built, and she's been in the fitness industry pretty much
Got you.
for about 8 or 9 years now. And so
Mm-hmm.
she knows sales. She can sell me this shirt and it's already on my back. Like that's how
Mm-hmm.
good she is. So
Mm-hmm.
she came in from the beginning and just hit the ground running. And she was, so that is kind of like she came in like as a friend and as a business partner originally before we
Mm-hmm.
even really
Yeah,
started
and she
dating.
balances you out.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like yin and yang.
Mm,
Like,
yeah, that's what's up.
so like I do the operational piece and she kind of does like the sales piece. And we
Yeah, I love
had
that.
so many conversations. Like we're super, super big on communication. That's
Mm,
relationship, life, family. It doesn't matter. Communication is just so important. And we had so many conversations in the beginning, like, if things don't work out between us, like we're still gonna run this business. We are in
that's
this
dope.
position for a reason. You have a skill, I have a skill, and we complement each other, and we know that. So, regardless of where we go in our relationship, we still have a business to run, and we pretty much agreed. And we just ain't them type of people. It's not
Yeah, yeah,
toxic. It's not
that's
spiteful.
dope.
Is very like mellow, super chill, and understanding. So even if it didn't work out, it'll probably be just a
Yeah,
peaceful, thing. So yeah,
and the
communication.
reason, no, I was gonna say the reason why I brought that up is because you do see a lot of people in business together, and sometimes it just doesn't work out on either of the end. But I love that you
Right.
guys communicate so well, and you guys know whatever happens, the business must go on. So I
Yeah,
do love that.
exactly.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Um,
Yep.
I would love for you to touch on your nonprofit a little bit. You're going and you're switching jobs and you're starting a business. Where do you have time to start a nonprofit, and what is it about? What do you guys do there?
Yeah. So the nonprofit, it's financial literacy for people of color. So
Mm,
FLPOC underscore on Instagram, or FLPOC.org is the website. So I'll just kind of briefly, talk about,
mm,
even when I talk about the conference, it's like I have two really big reasons why I started it. My personal reason is, when back in 2017, 18, when I first moved to LA, 5 months after I moved to LA, part of the reason why I wanted to come here is because my dad and my grandfather were here. And like I told you before, I don't have a relationship with him. And I moved here because I wanted an opportunity to try and to just at least try to have a
mm-hmm.
relationship with him and just
I
see
heard
if
that.
me being in the same place as him, if that would help, or like, if that would just make things better. Unfortunately, it did not, but I
Mm,
tried.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that was the reason why I came here. And so 5 months after I moved here, my grandfather was hit and killed by a hit and
Mm,
run driver. And so that's kind of when things just turned upside down for me. Like my sister and I we were next to kin because my dad just isn't mentally or financially in a position to take over anything. So it was just me and my sister. And so we had to take over. He had 3 houses, no insurance. All the houses had mortgages. Like, he pretty much just good and bad, right? Like, okay, we have 3 houses, but they have mortgages. Like, it's perspective is everything. I was in a relationship at the time, and because all of that was going on, fighting with family, you know how that goes. It stressed me out. I won't say like ruin my relationship, but it was definitely a part of it. So, my relationship failed. I went broke. I had never seen my account in the negative, like since probably even before college. Like, I don't think I had ever, and my account was red. Okay. And I was just like, oh my God, like, this is awful. Like, even I slept in my car for like 2 days because I didn't have anywhere to go. And like, I was in between places. I had to skip out on my rent in my apartment because I had used all my money to bury my grandfather. And I didn't have nothing. So I'm out here in LA with a 6-figure job, sleeping in my car, nowhere to go, broke, right? So it was just a lot. And that just kind of woke me up to how important it is to have life insurance, to be financially literate, to have a savings, to just, be ready for the, what's the word I'm looking for? The
trials and
just be ready for the things that you aren't expecting, the unexpected. That's what I was looking for. Be ready for the unexpected. So my journey to financial literacy stemmed from that, because now I got 3 houses and I got to figure out, okay, how my family in my ear telling me to sell it, but I know in my heart of hearts that selling these houses ain't it. Like, I ain't selling it. That's why I tell her, don't sell granny house. If you sell your granny house, like,
I heard that.
You can absolutely, I talk anybody out of selling a house that was literally given to them for free. Why would you get rid of it? Unless you just absolutely had to. So we had 3 houses. We did sell one because it was just too much trying to manage 3, and it was far away. San Bernardino, if you know where that is, way out there, and it was just too much. So we did sell that one, and we kept 2. So the nonprofit was kind of born from that. And then, or my passion or my why was that is it. And then the reason why I went ahead and started it was around the time where, like, the big uproar with George Floyd and on social media. And I started hearing a lot of people saying, oh, we need our reparations. And I just couldn't help but think, like, man, the government would never give us reparations. Like, even if they did, like, if they gave everybody, 20, 30, 40, whatever, thousands of dollars, if they give you $1,000, you wouldn't know what to do with it. How many people took that stimulus check and actually did something, that was remotely responsible with it? I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I can guarantee you it's a lot of people that didn't do right.
No,
yeah, so that's kind of where it was born. And so I launched it in December last year during the pandemic. And my thought behind it was I wanted to get people physically together and just educate and teach people on, like, the very basics of finances, not getting into trading and stocks and like all the complicated parts, but just basic savings, basic life insurance, like how, people don't even know you can get life insurance and enjoy your life insurance while you're alive. Like, I have a life insurance policy that I'm going to be done paying for around, I think, 48 or 50, and I'm going to have a 6-figure draw on it that I can use tax-free. So I can get a house, I can put my kids through college, whatever. My grandmother actually took out a life insurance policy on my sister before she was born, and she just cashed out 3 years ago. She cashed out.
Wow.
So she had a cash value, and because my grandmother did that, like, your kids your unborn kids can have money by the time they're 25 to pay for their college. And just from you,
Mm-hmm.
the younger you
Wow.
are, the less expensive it is. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have an
That's
unborn child
crazy.
and you have life insurance on them, it's probably going to cost you less than $50 a month, and you'll be done paying it off before they're
Mm.
even 30. And now they got cash money that they can use. So
Mm.
even simple stuff like that about life insurance, it's like a gem. People need to know how much you need to retire, like putting that into perspective for people. Like it all goes hand in hand. It's very important. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to help as many people as possible. And to
Mm.
answer your question about like how I'm able to do it. So with the nonprofit, my sister and I came together, and I reached out to my attorney and I was like, hey, I want to start this nonprofit. I started reaching out to people who, there's this guy in Mississippi. His name is Tim, and he has a nonprofit called Higher Purpose. And I had been following him for a while, definitely was inspired by him. And so I hit him up like, hey, like, can we schedule a call? I'd love to like pick your brain about the nonprofit. I want to start one of my own. So I jumped on the phone with him, super busy. So, somewhat informative, but I knew I
Mm-hmm.
had to keep digging. He did give me some insights, but I just remember one day waking up, and first thing I did was pick my phone, got on Instagram. And I remember scrolling, I'm like, you need to get yourself out Instagram. Like, this is not how you start your day. And I was fussing at
Right. Right.
myself in my head. And as soon as I was getting ready to close the phone, I ran across this page, because sometimes when you follow hashtags, you'll see certain
Mm-hmm.
pages. And I ran across this lady's page named Jill, and she calls herself the Savvy Servant, and she's a nonprofit mentor, and she used to work for the government, and she used to read grants and write grants and stuff like that. So she's very
Mm.
well versed on the nonprofit world, and she helps people start and get their nonprofit going. So I went on her page, and like I signed up for a course, which was super affordable. It's like $70,
Mm.
and I did her course, and she was like very helpful in my process of actually getting the nonprofit started from a legal perspective. So making sure I had all the documents
Mm.
and all that stuff. So I'm currently right now waiting. Everything with the nonprofit is on hold because I'm waiting on this number that I need to have from the IRS, because so when people
Mm-hmm.
donate, you need to be able to write that off. And like before I
Right.
can get grants, I have to have this certain number from the IRS. And it's honestly been almost a year and I haven't heard back yet. I've been
Wow.
following up with my attorney like once a month, like, have you heard anything? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of just waiting on that so we can start applying for grants and getting the funding to
Mm.
be able to push the agenda forward with educating people. But we were doing quarterly workshops, so we've done two so far, and just using social media to organically market to our following about, just coming to learn some basic stuff
Mm-hmm.
about financial literacy. I partnered with a few financial
Mm.
advisory companies. They have a lot of rules and stuff, and they have to be careful about
Right.
partnering with other organizations. But so just partnering with them, I partnered with Watts Empowerment Center in Watts, California, and just trying to get a hold to those kids, their parents that's at that. It's kind of, if you don't know what Watts Empowerment, it's kind of like a local YMCA, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like its own little brand, and it's right in the center of Watts, California. They do some really good work there. So just going out there, they had a summer program where I did two or three workshops for the parents out there. So right now, just doing what I can in the community. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, it's kind of slow right now while we wait on this number to come so we can really
Right.
pick up the promotions and do some more workshops and hopefully in-person workshops.
Absolutely. No, I was gonna say it's probably everything's probably gonna come around when the time is right. You know, when it does come
Yep,
around, it's gonna be like, okay, this was the right time. But what I
time.
definitely wanted to say is, shout out to you for taking that step and
Mm-hmm.
giving back to your community, because you said something pretty good. You said that you wanted to give like basic knowledge back to people, give basic
Right.
knowledge back to our community, because you hear people talk about all the time, you need to invest in stocks and real estate and crypto, all this stuff where
Mm-hmm.
it can be really complicated. And
Yeah.
for most people, they don't even, how do you even get to that point where you're investing? How do you, it's a
Yeah.
mindset thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
love that you're bringing it back and you're giving the basics, like
Yeah, exactly.
life insurance, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, which to me it's phenomenal information. And I think like I said, I love what you're doing. That's amazing. Super dope.
Yes, yes.
For
Thank
sure. For
you.
sure.
Yep, it's definitely a mindset thing. And that's kind of um what another piece of like what I'm getting into now is like like they told you at the conference, I'm not big on like branding. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
push, I have a page that I pay somebody to run for the gym, and I actually have somebody running the nonprofit page, so I can focus on the
Mm-hmm.
core things of the business, and social media just isn't one of those things that I have the time to really pour into. I would love to start doing some stuff on my personal page, but I do mentor people here and there. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, it's just not something that I push, but mindset is one of the things, like one of the core things that I mentor and coach people on, is because it's two things that typically stop people from following a dream or moving forward with a vision that they had, and it's fear and finances. So
Mm.
they're scared to start, they're afraid of what people would think, they're afraid they're gonna fail, or
Right.
they think they don't have the money, or they think they need a certain amount of money, or they don't have the money, they think they need all these fancy, piece of equipment, depending on what they're trying to do. And so just giving people perspective, because a lot of people
Mm.
lack perspective and they see all this stuff on social media. I am very successful and I have not even really pushed anything on my social
Right.
media.
Right. Right.
So, I'm not painting no crazy picture or nothing like that. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
one day, one of these days I'll be able to really do
Yeah.
that and push my personal brand. But it's not just about that either. Like you have to start with your mind
Mm-hmm.
and really changing how you see things and how you view the things that are going on and your circumstances. Because I was just broke, what,
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, like crying,
Mm-hmm.
depressed. I didn't know where I was gonna I was gonna bury my grandfather, like,
Mm-hmm.
so, but I didn't soak in that, because I very well could be in a very bad place right now. But just pushing through mentally those
Mm-hmm.
challenges. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you spoke about social media, that's a whole nother podcast and a whole nother topic we can talk about. But I
Right.
did feel that from you on stage. And it's no disrespect to anybody else, but I did feel like, okay, this person is real and genuine. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
fake. There's nothing like, it's not a facade that she has to put up. And then when I
Right.
searched you on Instagram, I was like, she doesn't even have, like you say, you're not very active, as active as
Yeah.
other people, like boasting and whatnot. So I do love that. Like, you just keep it real, and
Mm.
you just move the way you want to move. So I definitely love
Right.
that. Something else I wanted to bring up before we start to wrap up really soon. Speaking to the mindset, I actually have it written down. Two words that I that I got from the conference. The biggest thing that I got was self belief. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
everybody that was on stage speaking, even yourself, I noticed that everybody had this level of self belief that they had in themselves, where they just
Mm-hmm.
believed that they were going to make it. They believed that they were going to accomplish whatever the task
Yes.
was at hand. And you kind of spoke about it right now with the
Right.
fear. Just briefly, could you speak about the self belief that you have to have into yourself, to make it to where you're at right now?
Man, that's so important. That is
Mm-hmm.
so important, because that's one of the things I remember when I started the franchise, when I started Mayweather, and I told my mentor at the time, because he was the only person that I even would tell that I was doing it, because I wholeheartedly believe, and especially when you make a big move like that, you keep it to yourself. It's only you got to be very conscious about who you let into your space when you're
Mm,
going to take a big leap. So only speaking to people who are going to definitely keep it real with you, but not try to discourage you, especially if
right.
your mind is already made up. So I was just saying how when I remember when I first started the franchise, and like I said, just being careful about who you let into your space, especially when you've already made the commitment to move forward with and take a big step, whether in business or life, career, whatever it is. You have to be careful who you let into that space.
Mm,
So I only talked to, I think, one or two people, but one person for sure. And I told him, I said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
mm,
I have no idea what I'm doing,
wow.
but I want to do it, and I believe in myself. And I said, but and what I do know is that even if it fails, I'm gonna figure it out. And
Mm,
so I believed that, and that's what pushed me through. And I took time to make sure that I learned everything that I could. So I don't really, is, glorify no sleep, but I definitely
mm,
lost sleep. I have
mm,
four, 3 4 hour nights of sleep because I chose to stay up and really, dig into learning the brand and learning how to run the business. And even my staff
mm,
was like, dang, I'm impressed. I really didn't expect you,
wow.
to know everything that you know. And I'm like, yeah, I spent a lot of time, but so definitely having that self-belief. Not only the self-belief though, is, and you have to be okay with losing. You have to be
Mm,
okay with failing, because it is possible. Any type of business, any step, any big step, it's a risk, and you do step into the risk of losing. I'll be lying if I say I haven't lost in this business. I have. It hasn't failed and burned to the ground, but I definitely took some losses. But I was never afraid
mm,
of them. So,
mm.
so that's huge, man. Aside from believing in yourself, you can't be afraid. But I think it goes hand in hand.
No, absolutely. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. I love that. So just wrapping this thing up, I really appreciate you coming on this podcast. You have a amazing story, and you got
Thank
a
you.
amazing road ahead of yourself.
Yes.
And before you go, I always have my guests leave the audience with one last piece of advice. I know you were dropping a lot of gems and knowledge, but
Mm-hmm.
you can leave them with anything. It can be, fitness related, entrepreneurship related, health, whatever you want. We can leave them with one last gem, and we'll end it on that note.
Yes. So one thing I always like to tell people, especially if you're trying it, and the caliber of people that's probably listening to this right now, is the type of people that are, they want more out of life. You want to
Mm-hmm.
start a business, or you just want to get to that next level. And so what I want to tell you right now is to give yourself grace, and always
Mm,
give yourself grace, because in this industry and in this world, it's easy to just always be hard on yourself and feel like you should be doing more, which could very well be the case. But give yourself grace for the things that you are doing. Give yourself grace for being here right now listening to this podcast, because this is going to help you and help you get to that next level.
mm,
So you got to give yourself grace for that. So I would like to leave y'all with that. Always remember that when you're trying, when you're pushing forward, in the failures and the success, give yourself grace for
mm,
the things that
mm,
you are doing and where you are going to go. That's it.
love that. Where can people find you? Where can people get more information from you about the gym, about the nonprofit? I know you offer coaching services as well, business coaching services. Let the people know where they can reach you.
Yeah, so the gym is Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. It is located in Torrance, California, as 1431 West Knox Street in Torrance, California. You can find us on Instagram at Mayweather Fit Torrance. That's Mayweather FIT. Torrance, Torrance.
Mm-hmm.
And my name is Taylur Avery. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's Taylor Taylur dot
Mm-hmm.
Avery Avery. So Taylur.Avery is my Instagram name. If you are interested in working with me one-on-one, you want mentorship, business coaching, life coaching, mindset coaching, I got you. Just click the link in my bio, and you can look at my programs, my pricing, very affordable. And
Mm-hmm.
if you are interested in the nonprofit, I also do one-on-one financial coaching, and I will transition you to an advisor if it gets, into like you wanted to invest in set up like retirements and stuff and life insurance, because I don't do that. But if you are interested in keeping up with the nonprofit, once we get back going, you can follow us on Instagram at FLPOC _ and our website is flpoc.org.
And I'll leave the links to everything she just said in the description of this podcast. You guys heard how amazing this episode was. Share it with one person that needs to hear this episode.
Yes.
Leave a rating review. And on that note, I appreciate your time once again. And it's your boy Chris. I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.